Welcome to Poetry Lockdown. We are at day 79. Um, as I get started here, I just want to acknowledge, as I think I've said a number of times before, there's a sense in which I kind of have a double-mindedness about these recordings and this whole project. One, yeah, I'm definitely writing. I'm not writing, speaking for this moment. In my life and in our lives. But also, I have an eye to the future as a teacher. I am uploading these to YouTube, and I do poetry with my students at Cristo Rey, and this is something that I know that I will use in the future. So, with that in mind, just as a poet and a teacher, with all that's happened in the last week, um, I know, I have this in common with a lot of people. I'm overwhelmed by what has happened, but also as a poet, as an artist, I have a desire in some way to respond, to write about what's happening um, in my community. Um, so, with that in mind, I just wanted to share one of the things that I feel like I've learned as a poet is when things are overwhelming, when things seem too large to even get your head around, form structure in poetry can really help. So I shared, Terza Rima in that powerful poem from Patricia Smith in the last Poetry Lockdown. And this time I want to share litany, right? I mean, for a good Catholic boy like me, you think about the litany of the saints or parts of the Mass, like pray for us, so and so, repetition over and over again. There's lots of different ways that litany, it's not just a religious thing, that litany can take shape. And so this poem, I feel like, really shows the power of the form of litany. And I also think it actually connects uh, to events in our world right now. So I'll read that poem and then talk about why I love it and why I think it connects. It's a nursery rhyme, so I don't even know the author. This is the key of the kingdom. This is the key of the kingdom. In that kingdom, there is a city. In that city, there's a town. In that town, there's a street. In that street, there is a lane. In that lane, there is a yard. In that yard, there is a house. In that house, there is a room. In that room, there is a bed. On that bed, there is a basket. In that basket, there are some flowers. Flowers in a basket, basket on the bed. Bed in the room, room in the house, house in the yard, yard in the lane, lane in the street, street in the town, town in the city, city in the kingdom. Of that kingdom, this is the key. You can tell by the way I read it, like I love the building energy of this poem. Um, So one of the reasons this poem struck me, just thinking about the killing of George Floyd and the protests across the country and across the world, is the power of repetition, right? You've probably heard "say his name," George Floyd, I can't breathe. There's power in the repetition of those phrases, just like there is power in the repetition of in that, in that, in that, in that, and then we arrive in the middle of this poem. I always talk about turning points or shifts because I feel like every poem has one. At that flowers in that basket, there are some flowers. And just I think part of the reason I feel overwhelmed trying to write about all that's happening is just proximity. How close I am to the scene of this horrific killing. Just blocks away from me. And in a sense, um, it's like that event has rippled out to the nation and the world in a way. And we see the connectedness of people and events in ways we might not have seen before. And I feel like that's part of what this poem teaches us. In a way, this poem teaches us to see, right, the connectedness of things that you might not see otherwise. So that's my insight from this poem, and I think that's what a good litany can do. It can connect disparate things that you might not see a connection of. Let me revel in this nursery rhyme once more. I'll read it a second time to close this out. This is the key of the kingdom. This is the key of the kingdom. In that kingdom, there is a city. In that city, there is a town. In that town, there is a street. In that street, there is a lane. In that lane, there is a yard. In that yard, there is a house. In that house, there is a room. In that room, there is a bed. On that bed, there is a basket. In that basket, there are some flowers. Flowers in a basket, basket on the bed, bed in the room, room in the house, house in the yard, yard in the lane, lane in the street, street in the town, town in the city, city in the kingdom. Of that kingdom, this is the key. Thank you for listening. And I just want to say again, like I've said many times, it is a horrific act. I hope my voice can be some source of nourishment to you. I stand in solidarity and prayer with George Floyd and his family. Thank you all for listening. I hope this finds you doing well.